There has finally been some accountability among the Democratic Party for their heinous crimes, and I cannot wait to talk about it. He's been in the Epstein files for an incredibly long time, and he's finally agreed to come and testify before Congress because they threatened to hold him in contempt. And we've recently jailed a lot of people for contempt of Congress. So, yeah, they knew we're not fucking around this time. So we're going to see what Politico says about it, huh? Bill and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify before the House Oversight Government Reform Committee as part of the panel's investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It is a remarkable reversal from the former president and Secretary of State, who last month chose to defy committee-issued subpoenas and risk imprisonment by the Trump Justice Department. And then they realized what that meant and realized they didn't want that. But they changed their minds as the House prepared to vote Wednesday to call their bluff and hold them both in contempt of Congress. Yay, we're doing things. I'm so glad. Look, the Trump administration has fudged a lot of things in the way of, like, holding the other party accountable for the crap that they've done over the last few years. And so I'm glad that we're actually getting to the point now where people are going to start going to jail, particularly these powerful motherfuckers that really need to be in jail. So the House could end up considering the contempt resolution this week anyway, just, because why not? They waited too long. We don't care. GOP leaders were, Monday night, not ruling out moving ahead with the votes if they were ultimately decided the Clintons are not making a good faith effort to expeditiously schedule their depositions with oversight members and staff. You're right. I mean, they might have wanted to wait a little bit, but I mean, ultimately, they're going to try and use it as they're going to try and scream retaliation or attacking his political opponents anyway, regardless of when he does it. After months of refusing to cooperate, the Clintons announced they were now willing to comply with the subpoena as the House Rules Committee was in the middle of the meeting to tee up consideration for the contempt resolutions and later in the week. The unexpected turn of events scrambled the GOP's plans, and it's not quite clear what comes next. Things might not be going according to plan, but at least things are happening, and I'm happy with it. I think we need more time to clarify with the Clintons that they are not actually agreeing to, says the Rules Chair of Virginia Fox, who is apparently a Republican from North Carolina. Accordingly, the committee will postpone further consideration of the contempt. However, there should not be a substantial compliance and agreement overnight. The committee will return to continue the hearing on the contempt. Yeah, because a lot of people are going to be pissed off that they are saying, no, we're actually going to do it right before they started to vote on it because they think they're going to get away with it and they're going to try and push it out longer and longer. So a spokesperson for Bill Clinton said in a statement on social media that the former first couple looks forward to setting a precedent that applies to everyone. Sure, yeah. I mean, if the precedent is that powerful people are going to go to jail for the evil things that they did, great. I'm here for it. I'm happy with it. The Oversight Committee voted on a bipartisan basis in January to approve the contempt measure for each of the Clintons after both skipped their scheduled depositions earlier this year. Yeah, fair enough. Honestly, we might be able to jail them anyway, just because they went ahead and skipped their their orders, and they were in contempt, right? Like, them agreeing to do it now doesn't mean they're not in contempt anymore, right? I'm just saying, they did defy because they said, hey, you have to come here, and they said, no, screw you, right? That's how that works. Yeah, that's fair. There hasn't been any accountability, so I'm really hoping that this is the first time we get some accountability. Or at least this is a step in the right direction. I think we can all agree. I think we can agree on that at least. Hopefully the other side can agree on that. I doubt it, but whatever. I don't know. They turned on Zohran Mamdani pretty quickly when they found out he was related to the Epstein files. The Clintons' counsel has said they agree to the terms, but those terms lack clarity yet again, and they have provided no dates for their depositions. Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, we're gonna come. I'm just not really sure when. They're gonna use whatever they can, lawfare-wise, to try and delay and continue to push this out. Some Democrats warned House Republicans not to proceed. Oh, yeah, well, it doesn't surprise me that they're threatening everybody. Okay, so if you try to move forward, that would be insane. The top Democrat on House Representative Robert Garcia of California told reporters, yeah, because, anybody from California is to be trusted. I mean, that would be unprecedented. Yeah, because we can't do unprecedented things. Why would we do that? It would be clearly a demonstration that Chair James Comer is actually not intended in hearing the Clintons, but he's only interested in political games. See, this is what I'm talking about. It's just going to be a bunch of different people saying, "Oh, this is going to be political retribution. Oh, they're only going after him because he's Trump's opponents." Blah 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 blah. Whatever. I don't care. Apparently, though, this is also causing some ripple effects in the UK. As the Clinton. Okay, so this is CNN on YouTube. I try and stay as impartial as I can in terms of like the different news outlets that I cover, and I do that because even if the news outlet I'm covering is total bullshit, I want to pull it up and then go over it and explain how it's total bullshit, right? We need to know what these retards are saying in order to counter it. Although both have said that they have no knowledge on the Epstein crimes, they have maintained that the subpoenas were not tied to legitimate legislative purpose, rendering them invalid. Bill and Hillary Clinton have argued that the GOP-led exercise was designed to embarrass and put them in jail. Yeah, see? They're going to continue to argue that it's just political retribution. And that's going to be their argument throughout. It's not going to change, I don't think. They say Illinois has the most corruption, but it's got to be... Dude, did you see what Gavin Newsom was doing recently in the last day or so? He came out and said, "We are finally laying the first 50 or something pieces of the track for this high-speed rail train that they're $600 billion in the hole for." They started that project. I think they started that project in 2008. It's currently 2026, and they have done nothing. Yeah, no, California is bad. It's really bad, and honestly, everybody's just clowning on Gavin Newsom on social media. It's pretty great, actually. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, so this is CNN on YouTube. This is them talking about the Epstein files rocking the UK as the Clintons strike a last-minute deal to testify to try and avoid the contempt of court thing because they will go to jail, and I really want to see both of them in handcuffs. All right, let's do this.
The Epstein files fallout once again spreading across the Atlantic to the UK. Britain's former ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson, is resigning from the upper house of Parliament over his ties to the...
Uh-oh. I imagine there's going to be a lot of people, like Prince Andrew, or he's not a prince anymore because they're kicking him to the curb. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to lose a lot of powerful positions over this, even if it's just because they were associated, and I'm so here for it. I love it.
The late sex offender. Even more stunning, one British...
To be clear, if there is evidence that Trump is involved in actually doing these terrible things to kids, hang him too. The problem is I haven't seen any evidence for that.
Royal is calling out another. Prince Edward did not directly mention his older brother Andrew, who has been stripped of his royal title over his Epstein ties, but listen to Edward's comments to CNN at a summit today.
I'm not sure this is the audience that is probably the least bit interested in that. So they all came here to listen to about education solving the future. But no, I think it's all really important always to remember the victims and who are the victims in all this.
Andrew.
Well, I don't know who this person is, but they're a victim. The person blacked out on the ground, whoever that is. Oh, dude, that sucks.
Is facing more scrutiny after the latest document drop revealed this photo of...
You notice that they didn't call him Prince Andrew, it's just Andrew.
...him on the floor with an unidentified woman or girl. And the photographs at this point do not suggest any wrongdoing. Andrew has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, but obviously a lot of questions raised here. CNN.
Also, here's my thing. We're going to black out all the victims, obviously, because we want to protect their identities and such. But weren't there a whole list of victims that decided if they're not going to release anything, then we're going to come out and we're going to do it ourselves because we don't care if our name is out there. We just want some justice for these guys. I think that we should reach out to some of these victims and see whether or not they care. And then if they don't, we should unblack out their faces so that we know what this person did, who they did it to, and we can actually tie a victim to these criminals and it's not just speculation, right? Because the fact that it's blacked out, even though there's this person could be underage, but the fact that it's blacked out means that there is still the fact that he can come and say, nope, that person was 18, and there's no way you can't prove otherwise. So this is my problem.
And royal correspondent Max Foster is with us now from London. Max, give us the latest on the fallout where you are.
Well, we've got lots of reports about Sarah Ferguson, Prince Andrew's ex-wife, but they were living together for a very long time, and she had lots of relationships with Epstein as well, coming out through these files. So, for example, she's talking about not having £20,000 for rent. She was desperate to get hold of that. So a very deep relationship there, much bigger than we thought.
Okay, so he's giving him money for rent. Is Epstein a pimp?
Here in the
No, because he wouldn't give him money. They'd give him money, right?
UK, the focus is much
Well, to be fair, they probably were making him a lot of money somehow.
more on the former UK ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, because that has really roller coasted today. Initially, we heard a statement from the Speaker of the House. He read out a statement effectively from Peter Mandelson, who's a member of the House of Lords. Let's just have a listen to that.
My Lords, given the public interest and for the convenience of the House, I have decided to inform the House that the Clerk of the Parliament has today received notification from Lord Mandelson of his intention to retire from the House, effective from 4th February. I will formally notify this to the House tomorrow in the usual way.
So he leaves the House of Lords, he keeps his title of Lord, but in an extraordinary move, the Prime Minister has introduced legislation tonight calling for his title to be stripped from him too. Why?
Ooh.
This is because there were correspondence.
Dude, the English royal family is not messing around with this. And I think they've known about it for a long time. They just can't hide it anymore. And that's the important part, because I think that, like, before Queen Elizabeth died, I think that she really did hate her son, and that's just my theory. But I like that theory.
In the Epstein files between Epstein and Mandelson, which suggests that Mandelson, as business secretary under Prime Minister Gordon Brown, was leaking internal government information, market-sensitive information, which Epstein could have used to make.
Definitely used. Not could have. Definitely did use, and was the reason he was giving him the information so he could use it. Okay, what are we doing here? Epstein was a financier. Of course he used that information in the market. What?
Money, effectively. And the government launched an investigation, very quickly found correspondence.
Here's the deal. He's not going to pay Epstein to do anything because that would leave a money trace. However, he is going to tell him that in 2 weeks the UK government is going to make a deal with X country that's going to make the oil prices go up. So if he buys a bunch of stock in, let's say, X oil company, petrol X, company, I don't care. Now Epstein buys a bunch of stock in that. They make this trade deal. The stock in that company goes up. Epstein makes $20 million in 2 weeks. Because of that information. So yeah, that's how it works.
Correspondence which they were alarmed about. They've sent that to the police. Gordon Brown sent correspondence to the police as well. And tonight, in the last half hour, we've heard the British police are now investigating Peter Mandelson, the first criminal investigation coming out of this latest drop of Epstein files.
That is quite the bombshell. Max Foster, thank you so much for the latest there. Former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have reached a deal to testify in the House investigation of Jeffrey Epstein. The agreement means they will avoid a contempt of Congress vote. Sources telling CNN the Clintons will be deposed on February 26th and 27th, but they've added a new.
That's what they say, but I bet they're going to try and find a way to kick that can down the road a little bit. They're just waiting for Bill to die at this point, right? Like, that's all they're doing.
Twist. They want to answer the Oversight Committee's questions in a public hearing. It's not clear if the Republican chair, Congressman James Comer, will accept that request. President Clinton has never been accused of any wrong.
I am fine with the public hearing. I'm actually good with that. I don't mind. But I feel like it's always public. Like, even if they go and sit before Congress, it's public. We can watch that.
Doing with Epstein, and his spokesman has said Clinton denies knowing of Epstein's crimes and cut off their relationship before they came to light. Last night, the Deputy Attorney General once again signaled there will likely be no further criminal charges stemming from the Epstein files.
Oh my God. Look, if people don't start going to jail, Trump really is going to start losing supporters, and it's going to be for no reason other than we expect some results on the most evil thing we can all think of, right? Like, what the hell is happening here? Why are there victims, and nobody's going to jail for it? Why do the victims exist if the criminals aren't getting put in jail? Like, does that make sense? Because the victims exist, we know that there are criminals. We know that more than just Epstein did these things. And the people that did should go to jail. Pretty sure Oprah was in that list. Put her in jail too. Like, what are we doing?
It is not a crime to
Kings, queens, princes, presidents, I don't care. Put them all in jail.
party with Mr. Epstein. And so as horrible as it's not a crime to email with Mr. Epstein. And some of these men may have done horrible things. And if we have evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you
What about the guy that said, hey, I really liked your young girl? What are we doing?
better believe we will. But it's also the kind of thing that
That was Howard Lutnick, right? Like, yeah, pretty sure.
the American people need to understand that it isn't a crime to party with Mr. Epstein.
Let's bring in Sarah Fitzpatrick of The Atlantic, an investigative reporter who has covered Jeffrey Epstein.
Boy, that's a hot take of a century, right? Like, it's not a crime to party with Jeffrey Epstein. And to be fair, he's right. But also
Extensively. And just first, what is your reaction there to what we heard from Todd Blanche, and what are survivors telling you about it?
I mean, I think it's really hard to square what Todd Blanche is saying there versus what he has spent money on for the Justice Department of taking hundreds and hundreds of attorneys to review these documents, to work overtime. Like, if there's likely to be no charges, why was there such a huge commitment of resources that have been pulled away?
No, that's fair. Listen, I've brought up on like previous streams and videos and stuff that I made. I liken it to let's say Epstein has a party at this not even at the island, but like at some villa somewhere, right? Because he knew a lot of people. He knew a lot of powerful people for a lot of years, right? I'm sure he rented out certain rooms in some hotel somewhere, like the conference room. And they had small get-togethers, small parties where people could meet and greet and things. I'm not going to blame the catering company for that party because it's likely that they didn't know what was going on, right? But the people that stayed for the after party, okay, maybe we can start looking into those guys. The people that were at the island, for sure, because there's no reason that you're going to be at that island and not know what's going on. Like, flat out. Even the cook at that island. Throw his ass in jail. Unless he directly helped the cops get there, throw his ass in jail. However, various people that met him, like, or have a photo with him 20 years before any of the allegations came out, like, those guys should not be in any kind of trouble. Now, they're gonna be, because they're gonna be guilty by association. But I don't think that I do think that there's a lot of people in the Epstein files that are not guilty of anything like wrong at all. But that doesn't matter to the general public. That's the point that I'm trying to get across. So that's my take on it, I guess. Anyway.
Away from other violent crimes and other things that are in desperate need of law enforcement attention.
He says it's not a crime to party with Epstein. It's not a crime to email with him. That's certainly true. But you've heard critics of what he's saying say it's very curious to party with Epstein or ask to go to his island or email with him after you know that he is a convicted pedophile.
I cannot believe that I am agreeing with CNN. My God.
And that raises a lot of questions, and the DOJ should be more interested in investigating that. So where does that leave things, and why aren't they?
Oh, that's why. That's why they're saying the true things now, because now it's not Biden's DOJ, it's Trump's.
I think it's a very curious question that we have never gotten a good answer to. This investigation, unfortunately, has been mishandled by multiple administrations, both Democratic and Republican, at the local level and at the federal level. And so what I think it reflects is the Trump DOJ kind of came in that we're going to release these files, we're going to get to the bottom of this. And now we're seeing that there have been no, as far as we can tell, no major law enforcement steps taken.
Nope, that's fair, and I'm totally with you. People should be arrested. People should be in handcuffs. I don't know what we're doing. At least we've called the Clintons to testify before Congress, so at least there's some steps in that direction.
You know, for example,
honestly, though, I think that Bill Clinton's probably the low-hanging fruit on it, right? He's the easy one to probably convict.
the Clintons, I was talking to sources who have said, no, the Clintons have never been questioned by law enforcement, which, of course, you need probable cause. You need, certain steps need to be met.
That's what I'm saying, Stormy. I'm just saying.
Before you would bring someone in for questioning. But it suggests a kind of lack of interest and a lack of following all of those leads. Anyone who, especially because Epstein was charged, and Maxwell were charged with trafficking, which means the moving of people for the purpose of sex. Anyone who was at these parties, who had knowledge of their whereabouts, how communications were done, how the planning was, they have material information that would be important to investigators. So it just suggests that this was never really about getting answers, and especially answers that might not reflect well on the Justice Department.
So what should lawmakers be interested in learning from the Clintons?
They should be interested in learning why the hell he was on that plane 20-something times. They should be interested in learning why the hell he's naked in a pool with some people. Like, what is this?
I think there's a
I think you know. I think you just want to hear somebody say it.
lot to be learned about, Epstein's behavior, his confidants, how he...
I think we should be talking about how Bill Gates, like Bill Clinton's bad, but like Bill Gates still has not come out and said that Epstein's a bad guy. Like, he still considers him his friend.
How he responded to allegations, questions about even how he made his money. One of the things that has been so frustrating for me as an investigative reporter is up until these files were released over the weekend, it was very unclear what Jeffrey Epstein did all day. Now I have a better sense, which is email a lot, and cultivate this network very deliberately. But I think there's anyone who was in his orbit who understood who was involved, who may have had knowledge, that's all relevant information. It doesn't mean that they were aware of criminality, but it means that they have insight that might bring investigators towards people that did.
And then on this issue of redactions, there is a hearing tomorrow, and you have lawyers for victims saying, yeah, our victims sort of trusted DOJ to have all of these files put out, but you put out these files with the...
Oh, yeah. No, listen. There is no universe where I find out that a friend of mine or a family member of mine or even a child or a spouse of mine is doing this thing, and I remain loyal to them in any capacity. Like, there's no way. I am distancing myself from everybody.
Ton of their personal information in it. It was a failure of DOJ. What's going to happen with the files and with what they're asking for?
It's unclear. So there'll be a hearing tomorrow in New York, and a judge will hear arguments from lawyers for the victims as well as representatives from the government. I think it would be quite extraordinary to take down this volume of information once it has already been disseminated. I think there's not a lot of great legal precedent for that. However, it was a real, there were so many months, there was so much time, there were so many people who were involved in preparing for this release, and the fact that it is done so haphazardly indicates either a lack of attention or a kind of perhaps some other motive. And I think that's what a judge will have to evaluate.
No, and that's the problem that everybody has with it, right? Like, the fact that, first of all, they had the files and they weren't releasing them, and then she had all the files on her desk, and then she had folders with the name, like with the paper on the outside that said files, being held up by various social media influencers, and then there were no files at all, and now there's 3 million plus files. Like, this whole thing has been a complete fuck-up by the Trump administration. Like, this is crazy. I glaze them a lot because they're doing a lot of good things, but this is not one of them. This is something they really should have handled way differently, and I think mostly it's because they understand that all the powerful people that are on this list hold very key positions in the economy, and they're going to be guilty by association, right? Take Zoran Mamdani, for example. They broke into his fucking house. Bro had like, he left. He had to flee New York because they found out that his mom was in the Epstein files. Like, it's gonna get crazy. Links to all of my stuff are in the descriptions of all of my videos. If you are watching me on Kick, please follow me. That would be super cool. And I will see you guys at 8 p.m. on Sunday. Bye!